Hello and welcome to ET Garage. Today's video I'm going to go over a couple of controversial things that I will be using in the engine build, which should be very soon. Hold tight and I'll get to showing you that. Okay, like I was saying, I'm going to go over the stuff I'm going to be using in my engine build. That block, by the time you see this video, should be back. He called me, and the engine shop that's doing the machine work called me and said that they are honing it and that it will be done Tuesday. You should see this video on Wednesday, so it should be already back. And next video should be me throwing that motor together. And hopefully the week that you're viewing this video, I'll have it in the car and up and running. The controversial thing I will be using will be these Total Seal gapless piston rings. Now, before we get into it, I'm going to leave a link at the end of this video, somewhere up here, and to a video they just did a week or two ago on how to gap these rings when using the gapless top ring. There's two different kinds. There's a gapless top ring and a gapless second ring. Gapless top rings are for naturally aspirated. Gapless second rings you're supposed to use for boosted applications. Now in the video they go over using the gapless top ring, and if you don't know what the gapless ring is, basically if you look here where that gap is, there's a second ring that clicks over it and fills in that gap. And what they're saying in the video is on the second ring run a really big gap, as much as an 1/8 inch, and then on the oil rings oil rings are 3-piece. You got a lower ring, the spreader that goes in between the lower ring and the top ring. That top ring you want to be bigger than the gap to be bigger than the gap on the bottom ring. That's what they're saying. That's the instructions I'm going to follow. This will be the first time using gapless springs on a small block Chevy. They say if you do have any type of pumping problems and you're running a PCV system, positive crankcase ventilation, like I am, to run a restrictor on the intake side of the PCV system. So I'm not going to run that at first. I'm going to see how it is without it, and then if I have a problem, then install it. Maybe I'll just do both too. Once I get the motor broken in, I'll do a crankcase pressure test and all that stuff. But that's one of the controversial things I'm using. And this will be another thing I'm going to be using that I've never used before, which I don't think is controversial, is their quick seat compound. And it's just a little bit of tiny powder that will coat all 8 cylinders, and it turns a greenish tint. After you get your cylinders all cleaned and spotless, you rub this on, and it should turn a greenish tint. If it turns like a blackish or silverish, that means your cylinder walls aren't still clean. So the good thing about it, really good about it, is it'll let you know if your cylinder walls aren't as clean as they're supposed to be. These OSA, and the main purpose of this stuff is to help your ring seat in quicker. Another thing I'm using to help break this motor in, this is for the first time. Like I said, even though my engine builds are far and few between, I never used a break-in oil. When I built this 383 that I'm refreshing, I just used regular motor oil, 5W30. This will be the first time using break-in oil. I'm going to be using AMSOIL break-in oil. First time using their break-in oil. I use a lot of their other products. I'll be using their coolant on this engine build. And I use their oil on my trans, my differential, my power steering. Once this sucker's broken in, I will go to their synthetic XL. I usually use their XL oil, 5W30. About the only thing I don't like I said, is it's a straight 30. I don't like that because I'm up here in the Northeast. And that's not really a problem. When I go to start the motor, I'll preheat the little engine heater underneath it, and get the oil up to temp. Because like this morning, it's like 18 degrees. And once I get the motor built out there in the garage and in the car, like I'll build the motor one day, next day I'll put it in, hopefully get it all bolted up. I'm getting old, so I'm not doing things fast, and I need to double check everything. And then the next day after that, I'll give everything a good going over, make sure all my fluids are good and everything is bolted up correctly and wired correctly. And then I'll go ahead and do this, prime it and start it. Prime the oil system and start it. Now another thing I am using are Brian Tooley Racing lifters. These are LS7 lifters. You know what I'm saying? It's LS. This is a Gen 1 small block, not an LS7. They actually use the same lifters. What's really nice is they come in this lifter tray. So you can soak all your lifters and pre-soak them in the oil, which she's been soaking for weeks now, so I don't have to worry about that. Trick is just to soak the roller part, in my opinion. Don't let the, when I preload them, because these are hydraulic roller lifters, when I go to preload the, install the rocker arms and preload them, I will, you're better off not having any oil inside the lifter. So this way it's easier to adjust how much you preload them, which is basically one turn whether they compress or not. If they're full of oil, they won't compress. The only way you get them compressed is like put them in a vise or something, or drain the oil out of them. Another thing I was going to use were these Summit. I was going to replace my dog bones. If you don't know what dog bones are, these are the lifter retainers. They keep the hydraulic roller lifters. They keep the roller lined up with the camshaft. Hopefully you guys can see that. If not, you look it up online. Slides in there, and then this is held down by a retainer plate. And I was going to use the Summit ones, but measuring them, the Summit ones have more play in them than the factory original ones with 245,000 miles on them. So I'm going to stick with the original ones, and there's no way to adjust these. I tried, I can't even return them because I decided to experiment with them. They weren't very expensive, fortunately, and I decided to experiment with them and ended up cracking one of them. So then I ended up heating one and pinning them down, try and close up that gap. I did manage to close up the gap, and then of course, the heating affects the metallurgy, so I don't want to use it. I figured it was already cracked, so why worry about it? Of course, I cracked that one too, so not something you want to do, but you can learn from my experience. If you need to get new dog bones, pop for the GM ones. You're probably better off popping for the GM ones, and don't get the Summit ones. In my opinion, that's too much play. There's like 9 thousandths play, I think. It should be down around 3 thousandths. The factory ones are around 5. I don't know what to do. If I should, I don't want to spend money on other ones just to find out they're just as much play. So I'll do a little more research and see what I can find out. So hopefully it'll be good. But considering all the 245,000 miles I went with these without an issue, I'm just going to go ahead and use these over again. That's all I can say. What do you think? Yeah, that's about it for now. There are anything else I go over, like when I fit the, I'm going to be using a Canton windage tray. Like here's the factory one. And you can see where when I built my 383, I used the factory original one, and I had to hammer it down to clear. And it does a good job as far as I know, but it doesn't go the full length of the factory oil pan. And the Canton one does go the full length, and it's also more contoured around the crankshaft and has these little louvers for catching the oil. Should do a better job of scavenging the oil. That being said, I never had an oil loss problem, even on road courses and autocross and twisting mountain back roads. I never had a oil loss problem. So this will just ensure and help better oil return and less oil splashing up at higher engine RPMs onto the pistons and rods and the crankshaft. And when I install this, I'll adjust this to get it as close to the connecting rods and crankshaft that's reasonable. I have to look up what the reasonable clearance is on that. I'll have to look it up online. If I find it, I'll I'll put it up here when I do the engine assembly. I'll do that. One thing about this Canton oil scraper is it comes with a sticker here. You obviously don't want that in your motor oil. It's going to end up coming off and getting in your oil system and cause hook problems. And one thing I am definitely going to do, and I just noticed that now while I'm talking to you guys, this has some really sharp edges here, and that should probably be deburred. In fact, I'll probably deburr it more on the crankshaft side. This is for to allow the bolts to go through that are going to be holding this on. But I'll do a little. I think I'll do a little deburring to this. In fact, I'm looking where these louvers are too. It looks like it's deburring. So if you buy one of these, no matter who you buy it from, inspect it and give it if it needs a good deburring and good cleaning, because when you deburr it, you don't want any of the particles that you deburred getting in there. This definitely needs some good deburring. This is really solid though. I say they made a really good one. I actually thought about fabbing up my own, and I could have probably saved myself some money. I think it's around $70 or $80, but I think that's worth it. Now that I see this, I'm going to get to deburring this after this video. I don't know, I think that's about it. At least what I can think of. Anything else I can think of, I'll do in my, when I do the engine assembly video. I won't be going to detail engine assembly. Like I said, I'll just go over, like the Canton windage tray, fitting that and test fitting the dipstick. Make sure it clears. Actually, it'll be this side. Make sure it clears this part. I may have to notch that out, clear the dipstick. Find out when I put it all together. Test fit everything and all that good stuff. So hopefully it all turns up good, and hopefully the end of this week I'll have that engine up and running. Hopefully I didn't rattle on too much. I pray everybody has a great day, and God bless.